The Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship has returned to Shannonville Motorsport Park to kick off another season of adrenaline-inducing two-wheel action. Canada's top riders are set to compete in the Economy Lube and Tire Pro Sport Bike Opener through the iconic twists and turns at SMP. Gloves on, throttle ready, let's ride in Bridgestone CSBK Round 1. Marshall Ferguson alongside Colin Fraser as we are here at Shannonville Motorsport Park. It is time to get things going in the 2024 Econo Lube Pro Sport Bike Championship, and the reigning Canadian Superbike champion Ben Young is in the field here, but he's got a whole crowd of people coming after him this season, doesn't he?
So we lost our reigning champion. We won't have a defending #1 plate. David McKay rode for Kawasaki. Now he's moved to Honda and he's moved to Superbike. But we gained the top gun in the series, Ben Young, who has run this middleweight division, but not regularly. Now he's come down on a Suzuki, and he is absolutely the target, the focus of every other rider in the field, but particularly the top guy right now, which is Sebastian Tremblay, also on a Suzuki, Elliot Vieira on the Ducati, and those three, we were hoping they would get together at some point, but they qualified 0.2 of a second apart, and that suggests an incredible race.
There is Maverick Sear, one of the true rising stars here in the Economy Lube and Tire Sport Bike category in Bridgestone CSBK, as we get a look at the rest of the grid.
Heading into his first full season as a competitor, as a professional level rider, David McKay, our reigning champ, has moved on to Superbike with Honda. Connor Campbell, a winner last year, is also in Superbike. Matt Simpson is a crew chief. Meanwhile, Louis Raffa is out with a broken shoulder suffered at the regional, and Brad McRae is still recovering from 2 broken wrists suffered at Daytona. So we're missing some fast guys.
But certainly a deep field with those names coming back at some point this season. In the meantime, rows 5 and 6, a deep field is Mac Wheel back sitting there in the number 79 motorcyclecourse.com Kawasaki. Some great passing opportunities around Shannonville here in the sport bike category.
Perimeter track tends to keep the racing close together. They do not spread out the way they do on the more complicated 15-turn track, which has the internal elements that we see in our drone shots. And let's get ready for our start.
It is going to be fast and furious here off the top. Let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said.
Thanks, guys. Round 1 of the Bridgestone CSBK Championship is underway, and this year there's one significant change in the sport bike competition, and that is the return of 3-time Superbike champion Ben Young to the track. This is Young's first time competing as a regular since 2015 in sport bike, and the question is, how will he fare alongside 2 big competitors, Sebastian Tremblay and Elliot Vieira, who all finished the qualifying session just 0.2 seconds apart, with Nathan Playford also not far behind. This is a much anticipated battle, and the result could go in any direction for the podium in Shannonville. Back to you.
Thank you, Sarah. As we get set for the start, the grid is hot as we look to the Apex Cycle starting lights powered by Honda. And that front row is off and firing as it's Ben Young against Sebastian Tremblay. But down the inside goes Elliot Vieira, 2 wide into turn 1, and Vieira looks like he's taking the whole shot.
Lovely move by Vieira on that Ducati V-twin. In theory, it should have an advantage off the start. Some of these bikes have better launch control than others. The Ducati has probably the best suite of electronics in terms of a stock motorcycle. And this is, of course, the thing everybody was afraid of last year, Vieira getting out front. It never happened last year, but
GP Bikes Ducati of Elliot Vieira comes into the hairpin for the first time. Sebastian Tremblay, wheel to wheel here in Shannonville. They come together, and now they'll drag race down the back straight on lap 1 of 18.
And Ben Young commented he didn't know what it was going to be like watching these 2 guys race, and we just saw the thing he didn't want to see, which was the 2 of them bouncing off each other. And normally there's 4 or 5 other people participating in this festival of frolicking activity, but you got to say that as much as there was a little bit of drama there, Vieira seems to be getting his head down and riding consistently, which has not always been the case in previous years.
Battle-tested Sebastian Tremblay wedged here in between the excitement of Elliot Vieira and and the champion in Superbike, Ben Young, as they come across the line to begin lap 2.
Now, you got to talk about Cyr. This is his start of his full-time pro racing career. He doesn't have a lot of laps in. He was very impressive in qualifying. He eventually stopped the session. He got tangled up with another rider and crashed. But 4th place on the Triumph is a really great effort, and there's so many people scrambling to be with those leading trio. What we're watching right now is roughly what we expected to see. Those top 3 are, for less unpleasant way to put it, the class of the field. And then you look at Lang. Of course, he had a win in the rain last year. He's our Western representative. He's our Kawasaki representative. And I think we can say that Lang is putting tremendous pressure on himself because he believes he should be with that leading trio.
Andrew Cooney back in 6th place on the 93. He's got a whole bunch of very distinctive looks on his bike. I asked him about it. Said he just kind of slapped together everything he had sitting around the garage, but looks fantastic here as he starts to aim for John Lang in that 5th position. Meanwhile, the 3-pack up front laying down lap times as Ben Young right on the rear tire of Sebastian Tremblay.
And let's talk about those Gen 2 rules for this middleweight category. The GSXR 750 is the bike that kind of stands out in there. Tremblay, Young, Cooney, all on GSXR 750s.
GP Bikes Ducati of Elliot Vieira in control. He is being chased down by Sebastian Tremblay and Ben Young. Can the Young Gun hold on? More from Shannonville next. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Importations Thibault, Joe Rocket, and Pace Law Firm's Fallen Rider Support Team. Closed captioning for the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship is brought to you in part by Lifen, MotorcycleCourse.com, Apex Cycle, and Supersonic Road Race School. Welcome back to Shannonville Motorsport Park as we are working lap number 4 of 18. Elliot Vieira on the GP Bikes Ducati out in front of Sebastian Tremblay, but right there on the back of both of them is Ben Young, and Colin, he's grabbing for a whole lot of throttle.
Yeah, I'm confused. You keep talking about Ben Young, but I see this black bike with number 86 on it. I'm pretty sure that's not Ben Young, but the guy in 3rd definitely rides like Ben Young, and he's all over Tremblay, who rides a lot like Ben Young too, or maybe Ben Young rides like Tremblay. Hard to say. Whoa!
For the second time in this race, it's Tremblay banging wheels here alongside Vieira. Did that slow them both down? And here comes 86. Ben Young on the Scott Build Suzuki. And he goes to the inside of Vieira. He's got both of them. He got Tremblay as well. From 3rd to 1st goes Ben Young.
The one thing you never want to do is mix up your exit speed, and Tremblay and Vieira side-by-side contact, very dangerous on motorcycles. This is not a stock car race, and that opened the door. And watch here. Young is not planning to do everything. That's him on the 3rd bike, the black motorcycle. Tremblay sees the door open. Vieira continues to take those wide lines we discussed, but here Tremblay's starting to slide just a bit. Vieira's trying to tighten it up. They bumped. Fortunately, both of them had their shoulders up. Vieira has a good look like, what the heck just happened there? But this is remarkable. Look at Ben Young. He just says, I got the drive. I don't need to participate in whatever this is. And of course, there was so much discussion going into this race about Ben Young having to participate in that kind of action. He does not appreciate it, but it sure is fun to watch.
John Lang has moved up into 4th position here as Maverick Cyr in 5th and Nathan Playford in 6th. But you have to wonder right here at the back end of that hairpin how quickly Young realized, oh, I'm sitting here, I'm behind them, we'll see what happens to, oh, I got to get on the throttle and get up through the gears because I have a chance to take the lead.
So we have 2 Suzuki 750s leading, then a 955 twin Ducati, unlike the 4-cylinder bikes ahead, then Lang on the 636 Kawasaki and Cyr on the 675 triple Triumph. Is there a big enough variety of motorcycles for you there?
Oh, big wiggle right there from Young as Playford on the Ducati, the number 94 sitting down in 6th, but out in front it is Ben Young. By the way, Elliot Vieira being passed by both Sebastian Tremblay and Ben Young. He'd been running in the 107s, a 109 for him there on lap number 4.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you lose the drive. That trip up the back straight is crucial. You need to be turned, organized at the apex to that very tight turn that leads onto the launch section. Let's mention 8th place Philip de Gama Blanchette, rookie pro, 17 years old. Just aren't enough superlatives to describe how well he's doing in a deep field up that far. Lada and Frass also showing really, really well. So we have have some kind of unheralded guys running against some very, very top guns and showing what they're capable of early in our season.
And we saw the close qualification through the top 10, and this front 5 is pretty tightly packed as well, as they set themselves down that back straight.
You can see in the back of that shot that this field has not spread out very much. There's lots of good racing all through the field, and that's what Sportbike has been so famous for lately. But normally it's Tremblay maybe trying to set sail in front of 3 or 4 close opponents, but this time Ben Young, who did ride in this class years ago, mostly at CTMP, mostly on Yamahas, showing very, very well. And this, of course, is the Suzuki he used to be top Canadian, well inside the top 10 at Daytona 2 months ago.
Showed extremely well in the 2024 Daytona 200 as he's opened up a 1.4 second gap over Sebastian Tremblay coming across the start-finish line to begin lap 7.
I ran through that list of people who aren't here who might be factors later. One of them is Trevor Daly. He had a lot to do with building that young Suzuki. He has the identical twin motorcycle that he's supposed to be racing later in the season, probably in Sportbike and Superbike. So yeah, there's a lot of new GSXR 750s and possibly more to come.
Potentially could see him at round number 2 in Grand Bend, but right now it's race 1, round 1, right here in Shannonville. Is again Young, a little bit more movement on this GSXR 750 than we typically see from his BMW M1000RR.
Pretty conventional setup for Young. We're looking at Tremblay right now in second place. His bike just got those vivid graphics that make it so easy to pick up. Tremblay's approach to how he runs the 750 is quite a bit different. Been a lot of discussion on how he gears the motorcycle, and he is trying to find every last tenth. You could argue Young's team maybe not as aggressive in their attack in terms of the setup of the bike. Maybe that's because they have Ben Young, but really not a lot to choose between Ben Young and Tremblay. Both of them exceptionally smooth racers who do not make many mistakes.
5 successive laps of increasing speed here for Sebastian Tremblay on that Turcotte Performance Suzuki. He is in control of second spot, but eyeing down the Superbike champion Ben Young here in the Economy Lube and Tire Sportbike division. Welcome back to Shannonville Motorsport Park, working lap number 10 of 18, crossing the midway point here in race number 1 of the Economy Lube and Tire Sportbike race number 1. Ben Young in the lead as you see the 93 of Andrew Cooney go through. He's sitting down in 6th right now, but up front it's Young, Sebastian Tremblay, Elliott Vieira, John Lang, Maverick Sear is in 5th, Nathan Playford 7th, Philip de Gama Blanchette in 8th, Zoltan Frast in 9th, and Sean Latta in 10th. Let's hear from Maverick Sear as he sits in that 5 spot, talking about his experience at Daytona this previous March.
It was a pretty nice year last year, but I knew that coming from amateur to go pro, it will be much harder than last year. So I trained a lot. I went down to Daytona, had a good result, not the best, but the racing level is so high. So I was hoping to be a bit faster, but I still learned a lot from those best guys in the United States.
On board with rookie pro Sear and that Triumph triple, watching John Lang on that Willie Vass built Kawasaki, a very fast motorcycle. Lang, a bigger guy in this class, doesn't hang off maybe as much as some of the youngsters. There's Cooney in 6th, so that's 3 recently built GSXR 750s in the top 6. Very impressive day for Suzuki and the Generation 2 rules. Of course, Vieira in 3rd in the Ducati. That 955 Twin is also a Gen 2 bike, and that noise you heard was a bad sign.
And so it's Andrew Cooney that is off on the 2-wheel Motorsport Suzuki. You could hear that high rev before we got the shot, and that thing is full of Shannonville mud.
Yeah, and it's been raining a lot, so the runoff is slippery, and that's really frustrating for our rookie pro Cooney, who was sort of our second rookie pro in the group, and Sear's been attracting a lot of attention, but Cooney was running very well on that bike that his father built out of a bits of parts bike from the United States.
And his misfortune is to the advantage of Nathan Playford, who slides into 6th position here in behind the Lang and Sear battle you're watching.
Yeah, and we got to mention de Gama Blanchette is on top of Playford's 955 Ducati, and that's another bike built by Willie Vass out of Alberta. So a good day for Vass, who of course also had his hands in Ben Young's leading motorcycle.
Willie Vass all over these bikes in a multitude of categories, as on lap number 12, Maverick Sear currently lapping at a 1:08 pace, a little bit slower than he had back on laps 9 and 10, but trying to track down John Lang.
And the marshals are responding to some debris at Allen's corner, which is the last left-hander before you go into the final by the pit entrance. So we'll see what happens through this section as we head onto the back straight. Lang actually opening up just a bit of an edge from Sear. Worth mentioning that these two actually were involved in a bit of drama yesterday because Lang protested Sear's displacement. An inspection revealed that there was nothing unusual about Sear's motorcycle, so maybe a little bit of bad blood in this dispute.
Lots of grip coming through there. Great shot on board for Maverick Sear's Risen Racing Triumph as they do go through Allen's corner here and twist their way back onto the front straight to begin lap number 13 for these riders.
Didn't seem to be any major issue with track prep through there, and then you can see the guys getting their pit board. Of course, Sear doesn't need a pit board. He can see what he needs to do. It's right in front of him, and he is pushing hard to try and keep up with Lang. Lang, the winner in the rain at Mosport in one of our more spectacular and dramatic races last season when almost all the championship contenders managed to slide off, most of them at turn 3. Pretty dramatic day, and also a day when Sebastien Tremblay, normally a very smooth guy, particularly impressive in the wet, didn't manage to complete the race.
John Lang holding his own here as he heads down the back straight. You can see our top 5 there all in the shot as Ben Young up front heads into the end of the back straight. There's Elliot Vieira sitting in 3rd. Here comes Lang and Sear.
And Vieira at this point is probably thinking about points. Last year he had a very tough opening weekend, didn't accumulate any points in his debut with the Ducati. So starting off with a podium, if that's how it plays out, and we're getting near the end, would be a big step for Vieira, and we expect he and Tremblay to battle for the title. That's what we expected, actually, before we found out that Ben Young was going to be in this class. And as we've hinted around without saying it straight out, and I'm about to do it, Ben Young is trying for a perfect season in the 2 major pro classes, and that means no one else wins, and one guy has come close to doing that. Jordan Zoke in 2010 for Honda. He did it on the Superbike class and came up 1 race short, the last race of the year at Nova Scotia.
And Young in control here, but Sebastien Tremblay trying to close the gap. More from Shannonville next. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Importations Thibault, Joe Rocket, and Pace Law Firm's Fallen Riders Support Team. Welcome back to Shannonville, working lap 15 of 18. It is Young from Tremblay, Vieira, Lang, and Sear. That is your top 5 as they weave their way into the back straight here at Shannonville Motorsport Park. And once again, Young in that blacked out Scott-built Suzuki finding a way to hold off Sebastien Tremblay.
Yeah, there we can see there's some sign of an issue with traction coming off the back straight, and Young's just a little careful on the brakes there. He got on the brakes a little bit early. I don't see anything immediately as a problem, but as often is the case, Tremblay made up some ground because of that wave flag, and you have to respond, but how much you respond is a matter of your comfort level. And I think what's interesting here is, Tremblay is now close enough to Young that he has a really good idea of how that Suzuki works. So who knows if Tremblay can get to Young with only a couple laps to go, but I'm pretty confident that Tremblay is going to go sit in his trailer and figure out what he could change, right? So we're at this point almost looking at a preview of tomorrow as Young starts to carve through some of the traffic.
Yeah, he has to make his way through these back markers. We'll see how Tremblay does with it, as well as Young does find a way through, as Mackenzie Wheel has crashed out at Allen's, and so he is out of this race in round 1, race 1 at Shannonville. And Tremblay trying to weave his way through. Now we'll get some clear air once he gets past on this back straight. And on laps 14 and 15, Young has started to pick up the pace, even though they do still have those flags up on the back straight.
So the yellow is a caution, but it's not wave, so you can pass. The other one is a change of adhesion, which usually means debris on the track. So it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. Oh, there, we just went by Wheel's bike. So he's actually a long way out of the S's and riders left. There you can see Wheel's bike lying on its side there. So that's an odd place to crash, and also probably a pretty fast place to crash.
Yeah, absolutely. Is the motorcycle course Kawasaki of Mac Wheel lays there off the track, but riders will have to be careful making their way through that section.
Another one of our fast rookie pros, and we have quite a number of them, and the story within the story here is very much how these guys are all doing. Right now, Cyr is the guy in 5th, chasing Lang, but we have to mention Philippe de Gama Blanchette, and I've been mentioning him regularly because that is an incredible effort. He has less support probably than most of these other guys. He has a strong motorcycle, but running this far, this close to the front is a good start, and of course, he will be at home in Edmonton in about a month's time.
How can you not mention him? The performance he's been able to put down. Just 16 years old for Philippe de Gama Blanchette. Incredible to see his skill and performance here in the first race of the Bridgestone CSBK Sport Bike category. As again, nice times here for Ben Young. Do you get a sense that he's being pushed forward because he understands the threat that's sitting right behind him in the Turcotte Performance 24?
Yeah, I think Ben was trying to do his usual thing of slowing the pace just a little bit, and because of those wave flags and whatnot, Tremblay has caught back up there. You can see last lap. So, generally speaking, this is a very solid lead with a lap to go. If there was a lot of traffic nearby, Tremblay's still coming. The gap is closed remarkably, partly due to the traffic and the wave flags we've seen around the track and the incident with Wheels Bike. But right now, it still looks pretty safe, so we'll see what happens. And of course, this is an unusual situation. Young looking to end Tremblay's win streak and start one of his own.
Back on lap 17 of 18, Ben Young dropped a 106.9. Sebastian Tremblay a 106.842. So taking a very small bite out of the lead here for the number 86 Scott-built Suzuki. But he's got to do something huge if he wants to take the victory, Colin.
Yeah, there's not much to choose, and those lap times certainly reflect it. But I can't overstate that Young has been in control for a while. And what I'm interested in is that Tremblay has dug in. He's found a little bit more pace. But I think what's going to really tell is what Tremblay can come up with tomorrow when he's looked at his data and considered what he could do against Young.
Welcome back to the Sport Bike category. Ben Young, the Superbike champion, takes the victory in race 1 of the season and sets a fastest lap on the final lap, a 106.863.
So good work, Tremblay. You got to Ben Young and forced him to hang it out. It wasn't quite Young versus Alec Dumas the way we've seen last year. There you see the two Suzuki pilots celebrating, and what an effort. Of course, the very tail end of last year, those GSXR 750s were made legal at the final Shannonville. Now they've arrived with far more development, more time and planning put into them, and it shows that that spec is a good one. There you can see Elliot Vieira in 3rd on the Ducati, so the Gen 2 motorcycle is very much to the fore, and one of the old Gen 1 bikes, the 636 Kawasaki of Lang, very strong 4th, and he outbattled his rival Cyr.
If race 1 is any indication, it should be a fantastic year in the Economy Lube and Tire Pro Sport Bike feature class. Let's go down to Sarah Said with our winner, Ben Young.
All right, Ben, finishing first in your first sport bike race here at Shannonville, how does it feel?
Yeah, good. It's hard pace. Sebastian was pushing me the whole way, and I don't know, that wasn't really my plan. My plan was to set back. Those two guys were wanting to bump each other, and I was like, hey, just gonna get by and set into a rhythm, which I did, and managed to break Sebastian and just managed to hold the gap there. He rode a phenomenal race, pushing me the whole way, so it was hard fought one, but yeah, good.
Awesome, congratulations.
Thank you.
Ben Young takes the day, stands alongside Sebastian Tremblay and the GP Bikes Ducati of Elliot Vieira. A fantastic effort from all three, but it's the 86, usually has the one in Superbike, who takes the victory here at Shannonville. For the entire CSBK staff, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.